Okay, you just completed an interview and you had a great interview session. Hopefully you feel terrific and excited about that. You should take just a quick moment to be excited about that as you're walking out of the office, maybe a little bounce in your step, or get in your car or on the train or the subway and say, yeah, look how good I did. Maybe walk around the block to feel good about that as well. But really, right after the interview, you're still kind of working because you want to do some quick things that'll be very, very important. One thing you want to do right after the interview, as soon as you can right after the interview, is take a bunch of notes for yourself. You want to start making, recapturing and making notes about information such as the types of questions that were being asked, or if there was a pattern of certain questions. Maybe you got asked like a dozen questions just on teamwork. Then you would know that, boy, this is real important to the organization, or maybe they question my teamwork abilities. But most likely it's about the organization. So you want to take those notes so you know that you might face more questions about teamwork if there's some other future interviews. Things that might have come up with about the job itself, particularly anything that was specific or questions that you asked about the job and you got an answer back, that you can take those notes because in other interviews you're going to connect your experience and your abilities to that specific job more and more. Things about the company that you've learned or questions that you would ask next time. All of these things are good things to take right after the interview and keep those notes so it's fresh in your mind, because I'll tell you, after a few hours, it's going to start fading away. So do it while it's fresh in your mind. Also, right after the interview, follow up on anything that you've promised or anything that you need to follow up on that you may have discussed about. Maybe it was a screening interview and they needed a piece of paperwork for you, or you promised to send them something, references, whatever. Do that immediately. Do that very, very quickly. It shows professionalism, shows that you are very productive and that you're very focused and that you're a serious player as far as with this interview and with this process, and a serious candidate. Also, send a thank you note or an email. An email is perfectly fine, or whatever kind of communication tool, but an email is fine. If you do a handwritten note, it might take a day or two to get there, and that's fine. That'd be real surprising, actually. But any kind of thank you note, whether it's email or anything, will be surprising to most interviewers. You'd be surprised how few people do that. I mean, it's shocking, almost shocking as far as that. So you'll actually stand out by just sending a little thank you note that says, thank you, something along the lines of, thank you for the interview today. I really enjoyed it. I learning X about the company, and throw in something you might have learned about the company, or throw in something like, I really enjoyed our conversation about subject Y, and I really liked the way that I'm able to contribute on subject Y because of my experience with X, Y, and Z, right? So you're kind of combining those things together, that you've got a thank you note with a little tidbit of a reminder like, hey, look how good a candidate I am. I see your challenge is, working together as a team, and boy, I bring all these team skills, and it was a great conversation we had. So send a thank you note. Email is perfectly fine and fast and easy, and you'll actually really stand out. And continue with that follow-up as you go along. Sometimes in interview processes, people have other jobs than just interviewing the employer. So things can get bogged down or slowed up. So don't be discouraged by that. Just stay in touch. Maybe reach out, just check in, how are things are going. One tidbit that works nice, not overdoing it, but maybe you found an article that would be something that'd be interesting to the person you interviewed with. It could be something personal. Maybe they talked about how they like dogs or cats, and you came across an article they might like. Just send them off to them and say, just simply, hey, I enjoyed our interview the other day. I know you like dogs. Here's a nice little article I found on dogs. And leave it at that with a link to that. Or something that's more specific to the business is even better. Like, I noticed this was happening in the industry. Did you happen to see this article? And share that with them too. So the idea is fast, easy, and you're really just sharing something that would be of benefit to the interviewer. You're not selling yourself real hard on this. You're not saying like, look at this, I just won this award or something like that. You're really kind of giving them information that is of value to the interviewer and really shows that you care, that you really paid attention in the interview and you care about that interviewer as a person, whether it might be a personal article or a more businessy type article. And that would be something you wouldn't necessarily do right away, though it's even fine to work that into a thank you letter. But it's another way to keep in touch without being so obvious of like, hey, how's the interview going? How's the process going? Are you going to hire me? Are you going to hire me? Are you going to hire me? Sprinkle in some of those things like, here's some information I found. So after the interview, the most important thing I would say of any of this is good tips, but take a lot of notes right at the interview because it'll help you in your future interviews, and thus they'll help you to get a job offer.